So for our last session today, and what I'd like to talk about, I gave a broad title, but really what we're going to talk about is some of the informational tools that are available to you, some that have changed and evolved over time, but wanted to share with you some of the tools that we have available in practice. And what I wanted to talk about was the three areas. One being some of the online education tools that are available, as well as some of the reference websites, and I'll share with you some of the things that I look at and review, and then finally we'll wrap up by talking about some things that you can get on a mobile device, either a tablet or an app. So we'll start out by talking about some online education tools. And in these decision tools or online education tools, I want to share with you some of the things that are available where you can get continuing education credits, or you can just listen to pick up on conference presentations that you may have missed. And there are two, and actually the Beef Cattle Institute at Kansas State hosts the online CE for both the Academy of Veterinary Consultants, or AVC, as well as the American Association of Bovine Practitioners. So the AABP and the AVC both hold conferences. The AVC holds 3 a year, AABP holds 1 a year. If you're a member of either of those organizations, you can actually get online both continuing education credits, and you can listen to past conferences for free. So I'll show you how to access those and what to look at. You can use those on a mobile device, or you can look at them on your computer. So when you log on, if you're a member of either of those organizations, if you log on, this is what the Academy of Veterinary Consultants website looks like, and you can see where I've clicked on the members section and I go to proceedings, or if you look on the lower right-hand corner, there's a logo and a picture of Beef Cattle Institute. If you click on that, you'll go to the continuing education site. From the Academy, or from the AABP site, if you click on Member Center and drop down, you'll see online CE conference sessions. If you haven't logged in, the other thing to note up on the top right is where there's a dark blue bar up here where I've logged in. If you haven't logged in, you won't have access to those. But if you've logged in, you can go to either site and click through to the CE site. This is what the CE site looks like, and there's a couple things I want to show you that'll make it a little bit easier for you to use as you navigate and go through. When you first log in, there's a search bar in the middle of the screen, and then you can see on the bottom it will have the latest meeting highlighted, the previous meeting, or the steps to earn CE credit. When you log on to each site, even if you're a member of both organizations, you have to log on to either AABP or AVC. So those two are separate. When you log on, you can go to the search section, or you can just start typing in that bar. And here I typed in that bar, BRD, in the search bar, and it comes up with a list. And then I have a sort bar here, so I can sort by what was from the most recent conference, or I can sort them in another way if I want to. But for each of those sessions, I can click on that session and go to start watching it, or there's a little, looks like a clock below each one, and if I click that, it adds it to my watch later list. So a lot of times when I go to So back to the continuing education and on the site, if you'll notice where I click those, it adds them to the watch later list, and I can view those and decide whether or not to follow up. And if you'll note on this watch later list, it has a list of the individual presentations that I picked, and down here it says purchase. Now this is a distinction between the Academy of Veterinary Consultants and the AABP, so both those organizations have a little bit different website. So on the American Association of Bovine Practitioners, there are no charges. So whether you watch it for continuing education or you just want to watch it, there's no charge for either. On the Academy of Veterinary Consultants, you can watch it for free if you're assuming you're a member of each organization, or you can log on and pay for the continuing education credits. So in here, that's what I just described. So here it will show $0, but you have to select whether you take it for CE or non-CE. The only difference in whether or not you take it for continuing other than the fee that I just mentioned for the Academy of Veterinary Consultants, the only difference in whether you take it for CE credit or non-CE credit is whether you take a quiz at the end. And I'll show you that one of the things is that it will log that for you. So if you're wanting to get some of your continuing education credits, you can log that right on the website. So if I click on one and I'm taking it for non-CE credits, I have a couple choices, and this is what comes up, and I can make the video full screen by clicking here and making it into full screen so I can watch it. These videos are recordings of the slides, and then you'll have the audio voiceover. If I have it on a tablet or a device that I want to travel with, I can download the video or the audio and listen to those on the go. If I'm on the AAVP site, it has one more option. If I decide after I watch the video, or if I'm watching the video, I can switch that to continuing education and go ahead and take the quiz and get credit for that. So if I want to get those credits. The other thing that it has at the bottom here is it will have some of the related videos and what potential credits there are. So if there's a topic that's of interest, I can have that at the bottom where I can take a look at those. I mentioned the continuing education credits. So here it has, if I go through, I can look at what packages or what videos I watched, and then what CE credit that I received. And I can also search that by looking at the start and end date. So if I want to go in and pull up what videos did I get credit for last year, I can go pull those up, and I can have a list of those credits available online, which is what I showed here if I create a range of credits. The other thing, and based on requests from practitioners in both organizations, we're coming out with soon, there will be an app that you can have on your phone, which we expect to be out sometime this summer. This will be able to allow you to download those, make a playlist so you can listen to those from your phone while you're in the truck or from your tablet. And on this app, again, very similar to the website, you log in with your either ABP credentials or your AVC credentials. And I can search on the app, and in the app, very similar to a music app, you create a playlist. From that playlist, you can you can do a search, and then you can move it to a playlist. Now, in the app itself, because people will use it on either a tablet or a phone, you could have the audio or video version. Each of those are designated by the symbol. So this is the audio version. This would be the video version. So presentations are listed on there in either format, and you can add either. So you can put just the audio version so you can listen to it in the truck. You could put the video version so you could watch it on your tablet. Either way. And if I click the plus button, it will tell me that I've added those to my current playlist. So each time I click the plus, it adds them to my playlist. And essentially I can go through one time, create a list of those, add them to my playlist, and then I would have them available. This is what a playlist looks like. The playlist here has ones that are downloaded. We'll have the little triangle and play symbol. These are ones that I could listen to, and I could listen to it while I was going, but it would be streaming data as it goes forward. So I can either download them to my phone, or I could go ahead and start playing them and start listening to them immediately. So as I click one of those to play, like if I click one, this is what it looks like of the audio only version, and pretty standard controls. I can move forward or back. The nice thing about this is If you download a list to your phone, you'll be able to listen while you're in the truck or on the go. That'll be coming out later this summer. So I also wanted to talk about a few websites that I've found useful. There's 4 of them we'll talk about from different departments here at K-State. One of them is agmanager.info. So this is a pretty good website. This is a really good website, especially for economic information. They have a nice update that comes out weekly that you can sign up for their email update. They also have several good papers that come out from the Department of Ag Economics talking about pricing, markets, different mechanisms, and they have several good spreadsheets there. So they have I highlight here the livestock marketing charts. They also include data from the Kansas Farm Record Management Program. If we look on their production economics side, if you look at their production economics site, here are some of the examples of titles of downloads. They have several things that are PDF reports or spreadsheets that can be downloaded. The nice thing about this site is it's updated relatively frequently with new information, so they have price charts. This is a great place to send producers. They have everything from what is the average cost for leasing cows or leasing pasture ground in Kansas. They'll have it broken down by region. They'll also have some things related to hay costs and other aspects. So on their, and this gives an idea on their livestock and meat site, but it's a great place to explore and walk around. The other thing that I think is very useful, rather than going to just some of the USDA sites, they have a summarized feeder cattle price chart as well as meat price chart, and then they will update these. So if you're looking for one place to go find the prices, this is a pretty easy place for either you or your producers. The other site, and as a follow-up for pricing, and this one also comes from the K-State Ag Econ group, this is called beefbasis.com. And on this site, they have several analytic tools that come into play, as well as just some data on pricing. This is a site that's very useful for forecasting. Either stocker or feeder clients may find this useful, as well as cow-calf producers that are forward pricing their calves, because you can plug in and you can look very regional specific. What are some of the expectations for the fall, and how would I want to set some of the break-evens? So for example, here they have a section that if you look under data, and I want to look at market data, I can go back and plug in the specific criteria and pull up the market data for a very specific group of calves. If I want to look at historical market data, they also have a forecasting tool that will use that market data to move forward. So as working with clients, and a lot of times that data, and especially historical market data, not always easy to find and not 100% predictive of where we're going, but it does give us some idea to look through. You can also do a forecast, and we'll have people who are working with stockers or feeders that will want to plug in specific numbers, forecast what the expected prices would be and the expected basis, so depending on what region that they're in. So I think this is a very useful site, that there are several tools there worth playing with. The other site that we use is the KSU Beef site. So this is through the Department of Animal Science. This has a good catalog of information from the KSU Animal Science Ag Extension group, and they've put several things on this site. I put the full website up here, the actual ksubeef.org. You should be able to get to the site. Some of you are probably aware there was a fire in Hale Library the other week. That fire actually limited the availability of some of the websites, so right now you can only get to this site through the Department of Animal Science, but it is still there through the Animal Science and Industry site. This ksubeef.org should be back up soon. So on this site, they have a good catalog of the previous Cattleman's Day reports, as well as some of the individual decision tools. So there are spreadsheets available for download, white papers. A lot of the extension material that our clients have can come from this site. There's also several different areas that you can go through where it has tools that may be useful and links to external sites. So on this, I clicked on the reproduction and genetics side, and it's got some of the genetic tools that are there as far as pulling up a spreadsheet, being able to calculate some of those differences for EPDs or other genetics. The Beef Cattle Institute site is also available, and on this site there are several tools available similar to some of the others, and there's a lot of cross-links between these sites, but some of the tools and resources that are available there, a lot of informational updates, as well as some of the some spreadsheets and tools that you can go to download to work with clients in your practice. We also have a series of updates there. There's a research update and a clinical update. Both of those come out as email versions, but they can also be accessed on the site. What the goal of those is to try to detail some of the information that's coming out, send it to you directly. Those are also listed as archive version in the recent news section, so we'll provide some of that information from the site. There's also a podcast that comes out for listening to, another thing that you can listen to in your truck if you're interested, that comes out through the Beef Cattle Institute. Finally, on that site, one of the things that I'd like to share, if you are interested in getting those email updates, you can go on there and you can just click on the sign up for the emails, and we'll send you an email update, and they come out every week. That highlights some of the new information that's available. The other thing that is of interest and is not currently up on the site, but one of the things that has been a good project that we've worked on that will be coming out is a series of virtual tours. And those virtual tours are an opportunity to kind of walk through and look at different operations. These are probably not, the target audience is not you or your clients. The target audience is more ag educators, and I wanted you to be aware of the availability of these because they're a little bit unique in how they've been done in that they're first-person perspective. So many of these are videos that were taken with a GoPro camera, either from the standpoint of the animal handler or the animal, so it's able to provide people outside the industry when they have questions, what does it mean when we're doing X, Y, or Z, they get to have an example of what does that look like. So those videos will be available, and they'd be a great opportunity if you're working with the local high school ag group in your community, or you're working with somebody outside of agriculture and you want to have a resource to share with them and show what does it look like. Those tools will also be available. So the other part of tools, decision tools that we wanted to look at in practice was talking about some of the available apps or other tools that are available online. And one of the reasons that we've done some focus in this area is really to concentrate on the need for customized programs or to be able to share things with your clientele that have customized information. So we introduced about a year ago an app that allows you to collect data at pregnancy check. And we've had several people use that app, and the app itself allows the input of staged pregnancy data, and then from that pregnancy data we can generate some basic information or basic analytics on the data. And to look at that visually right after the cows have been preg checked can be of some value to the client. So as you see in the picture on your left, what this shows is for a particular herd, the purple bar represents how many of them got bred by cycle. So first cycle, second cycle, third cycle. The line that goes through the graph details the benchmark. And the benchmark represents, and I'll show you some specific numbers on that benchmark in a second, but the benchmark represents the upper 2/3 of herds that are in the data set. So it allows an immediate comparison between that ranch and the other ranches in the operation. Right now, there's the BCI benchmark. We're in process of setting that. If an individual practice wants to have their own practice benchmark, that would be here on the My Benchmark section, so that you could allow comparison directly and give immediate feedback. What we found, and in this smaller data set, but in the herds that were entered early on, we saw the benchmark, or 66th percentile, had 60% that were bred in the first 21 days. So the top third of herds had 60% bred in the first 21 days, and they had about less than a 6% open rate, so about a 94% pregnancy rate overall in the breeding season. When we compare that and we talk about using the upper 2/3 for our benchmark, even comparing that back to herds at the 50th percentile or average herds, we saw a large economic difference. So here was our benchmark at 66%. If you plug in on the left, that's a picture of what the herds look like that were at our 50th percentile or an average herd. So the difference between those, if we put some economic calculations to that, the difference between herds at the 50th percentile and the herds at the upper 2/3 was about $40 per head. Now those are estimated economic numbers, but it drives home the importance of just the difference between being average and above average. And I think this is a good education tool to work through with our clients to be able to show them that and give them some immediate feedback. So the other couple tools that I'm going to mention and just briefly discuss, talking about the consults, and these are tools that are made to work with you and your client hand in hand and allow you to come up with a custom recommendation for specific disease conditions. And these consults, and the acronym itself stands for a consistent, online, novel, science-based, user-friendly learning tool. Obviously, a name came up by academics, right? So it's very long and unwieldy. But the purpose is to mimic a phone conversation between you and your client, or an expert and their client. So the goal is, as you're able to work through these, you create a recommendation for each client that is different based on their specific situation. And I'll show you a couple examples. These are available online, and it allows you to work through and ask herd questions and come up with those answers. So the BVD consult was created by experts from around the country working on BVD, and from that consult, as you ask a question, you start out and it goes into, and it's a good learning tool for the client. If you have a client that you think might have BVD or needs to work on a control program, it allows them to ask and answer questions, and then you can go back. It provides feedback. One of the things about this tool is we started several years ago with just putting resources out and making resources available, and what we found was a lot of people, just like when I was in practice, you don't have time to read all the latest literature. This incorporates that in the answers. And then if you work through it with your clients, we allow the computer to have some feedback to the individual client. So what happens is it'll ask a question and say, excuse me, it'll give a recommendation and say, here's what you should do in this situation. And if the client says, no, I don't want to do that, there are some times where you say, okay, that's not a big deal. There are other times it says, hey, this is a really bad idea, and then it allows the client to learn. So this is one of the best tools for learning because it's interactive and it's almost like playing a game. So you answer a question and then it says, hey, this is a big deal or this is not a big deal as you work your way through. Many of these are set up with a question and then you have two choices. And as you work your way through, as you can imagine, most of these consults are 7 to 9 questions. And at the end, you have a customized recommendation sheet that you can give to that client. We have a BVD consult. There's also a TRIC consult. This one was sponsored and headed up by Dr. Larson. That was part of a grant that we worked on. In the TRIC consult, it lets you walk through the differences in diagnostics, timing, how we would want to put a control program in place. There's also a Heifer consult. The Heifer consult is a little bit different than the 2 disease ones in that it focuses more on the management side. We see these tools, and we've had practitioners use them in conjunction with their clients to help establish some of those programs. And it probably, I would expect, these consults are not providing different information than you have provided to your client, but it comes from a different source. And it allows you to cement some of the recommendations that you've been making in just a little bit different way. There's also a veterinary feed directive app that's available. This app is simply a calculator. It doesn't necessarily provide your VFD. It's not going to replace anything else that's already out there. But what it does is it lets you perform the math associated with selecting a condition, medical condition, a drug, or a cattle type, and you can select those in any order and do the math to calculate. For example, I've got here shipping fever, Oxytet, and feedlot cattle, and then I plug in only a couple numbers. What dose? If there is a recommended dose for that particular product that I selected, it shows up either as a range or a specific dose based on the product label. I select how much I'm going to feed per head as fed, ration dry matter, and the app simply does the math to come up with what I need to write on my VFD. If it shows up in green, that's good, it's legal. If it shows up in red, it will tell you that that's not a legal combination. So we wanted to have something that would be easy to put in the hands of practitioners to allow that calculation. There are lots of other tools to do that as well. You can also use this to send it to a PDF, to send it to yourself if that's helpful. So those are some of the things that I wanted to share with you today, and be happy to answer any questions if there are any.